Some weeks were better than others for her store. In fact, if she didn't turn her business around in the next 6 months, she'd be forced to consider closing the shop. But she was determined not to go bust. She wouldn't. She couldn't, because that would mean she'd have to run home to her family, and that simply wasn't an option. Which was one other big reason why she'd come here for this survival training. The next 6 months would prove whether she could be the woman she needed to be. If a little thing like a struggling business was enough to break her, how could she hope to stand tall for the rest of her life? Her stomach clenched, but she took a deep breath and forced the feeling deep down, where it couldn't hurt her anymore. She would make this work on her own. She'd show them all that she was a strong, independent woman. The phone call she'd gotten from her mother a few days ago had been an unpleasant reminder of just how much she still had to prove, because her mother's phone call had come with startling news. Her ex wanted her back. Funny, he'd called her parents and not her, like it was some business arrangement, because that's what it was. She'd loved him for a while. He'd offered her the same comfort and security as her parents. He'd even asked her to marry him, and like a fool, she'd said yes. Then she'd seen what marriage to him would be like. She'd realized that he wanted her to dress and act the part of a dutiful woman. When she'd told him her dream of running her own boutique, he'd told her no. Just like her father. Just like her keeper. But when Brad had threatened to dump her if she moved to North Carolina, that was the final red flag. And she'd snapped. Sure, running a few states away with her savings account wasn't the best laid plan, but so far she was struggling to gain the independence she needed. Brad had stayed true to his word. He'd dumped her. But she'd made the right decision. Now she was going to check off as many things on her to-do list as possible. Michelle hadn't realized how hard she was clinging to her cell until the case bent in her hand and threatened to break. She'd loved Brad, and he'd broken her heart by laughing at her, commanding her to stay in the frilly box he graciously provided. But she couldn't. Wouldn't. Now if only her parents and Brad took her seriously instead of waiting for her to fail. "I am really sorry I can't be there," Chloe said again. "You're the one who talked me into this," Michelle countered. Michelle had bared her soul over a pitcher of margaritas to Chloe about how no one in her old world gave her an ounce of credit. Chloe's advice? Go to this survival class. Show yourself, that you're capable of more than anyone realizes. When Michelle had left the city, she'd hoped her parents and Brad would come around, or at the very least support her decision. But nope, he'd dumped her. It was the gnawing realization he'd only wanted her as long as she'd acted a certain way, and that way was Upper East Side societal. Using her own brain was optional. "Yes, I did talk you into this," Chloe said, "because I think it's just what you need to realize that you don't need that dick, Brad, or your parents. You shouldn't believe what he said about you." Brad had been brutal, telling her it was only a matter of time before she came to her senses and crawled back penniless. Her parents had said the same thing, only laced with sugary sweet passive-aggressiveness. So that was it. She was on her own, trying to survive. And damn it, that's what she'd do. She'd also get all these lists checked off and enjoy life. She'd be the woman she wanted to be. "Thank you," Michelle said, feeling a light smile appear. She appreciated that her friend was trying to help her. And she had to admit, being here, doing this, made her feel hopeful and excited. This was a huge step in the right direction, even if the truth was that she was a little scared. Okay, she was a lot scared. She wanted to succeed, which meant she couldn't fail at the one major bullet point on her list. Be the independent, adventurous Michelle I want to be. Balancing the phone between her ear and shoulder, she underlined one word. Adventurous. That one word was why she was here. It was the reason she'd accepted Chloe's crazy idea about this wilderness training.